Yeah, I think we should be good now. Let me check. It says sending data, streaming. So we should be good. Okay, let's go. So hello everyone and welcome to the latest release roundup for version 1.3. We have Veljko with us, who was in charge for this release. And yeah, we are going to guide you through some super exciting stuff, especially for folks who are looking to contribute or work with Semaphore a bit more hands-on in terms of extending it or fixing some bugs or doing any kind of development or contribution. So yeah, in terms of what are the changes and what can be improved, I'm kind of going to present the problem. So as we released the Semaphore is open source, we had some minimal and relatively crude contributing guidelines and development environment for people that want to contribute. A couple of those things have improved significantly in this release, and there are also a couple of ones that are coming up. I mean, primarily when people were making pull requests, we had to trigger and verify the CI build ourselves. Now we have set up a public project. Veljko is going to guide us through that. And also in terms of like booting up local development environment and also following some of the best practices that we are following. So yeah, Veljko, maybe I can pass it to you and you can guide us through, share a screen and guide us through what has changed.
Sure. So let me start with, yeah. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, it works.
Sure. Great. So as Darko mentioned, we did open source our code a few months back, and it was possible to contribute, but there were a few hiccups, and that process is now ironed out a bit. First thing, now when you create a forked pull request, you will trigger the CI/CD pipeline or workflow automatically before it required somebody from our team to manually approve it. Also, since the project is now public, you will be able to actually go to our project, find your branch or pull request, find the job, open any job that might be failing, potentially see what the issue is, get that quick feedback, and then make the necessary changes so that all of our tests pass. That's one quality of life improvement. We did have some contributor guidelines, but they have been improved a lot by our colleague, Nick. Here we have the development guidelines, which kind of explain the tools that we use to work on our code. We also have a bunch of make scripts and that are actually used for local testing and maybe running the local environment. So running the service you are working on locally to see if it is behaving as expected. All of those things are now documented in this development MD that you will be able to find in the root of our repository. There are also some contributing guidelines, for example, how we expect the branches to be named, also how you should format your commit messages so they can show properly in our changelog once we release a new version of our open source application. Feel free to go through these files, and if you find anything that can be improved or any maybe better way to do these things, feel free to open the pull request and we will definitely incorporate it into our workflow. One more thing is our application is running on Kubernetes. It has a bunch of different microservices, and it wasn't really possible to run it locally. What we expected our developers to do is just run the one microservice they're working on, mock everything else, and then test that their changes are working properly that way. Our colleague Radek spent the last couple of months trying to incorporate our application in Scaffold. That is a tool developed by Google to allow you to run microservice applications that are supposed to run within Kubernetes locally and make it easier to kind of live reload the newer versions of the microservices that you are changing on your machine. It requires a couple of things to be installed on your local environment, like Minikube and Helm, but that's all also documented. So the next problem we were facing is that although you were able to run the command scaffold dev and everything would be built locally for your architecture and everything would technically run locally, it required around 16 gigabytes of RAM and 8 CPUs, which can be a bottleneck or limiting factor for a lot of machines. We dedicated a few weeks to try to consolidate a bunch of different microservices into a smaller number of deployments for the local development. Now we are at state where it takes around 7 gigabytes of RAM and 5 CPUs to run everything locally. We are continuing to work on this. We will go service by service and deployment by deployment, see if we can, at least for local environment and local testing, decrease the number of both RAM and CPU resources each deployment is asking for, and in that way make it even easier and more feasible to run it locally.
Can I just jump in with one question? So,
Sure. Yeah.
In terms of RAM, that everything which is below 8, I would say, as you mentioned, 6 or 7, seems like it's completely fine. But in terms of CPUs, I understand it's like 5 now when you need to boot Minikube plus everything else.
Yeah.
But is like 5 required at all times, or it's like during boot time you have to have 5 available? I assume that most of the things would be idle, and especially in the local environment, and you could realistically it will not be running 5 CPUs at 100% all the time.
So, yeah, of course. So as you mentioned, during the boot up, each service is spiking in the resource usage, both CPU and RAM. But if you are not running anything, basically the entire app is just idling in the background, it does use way less than that. It's our task now to actually go service by service, start using it locally, incorporate some monitoring tools to see how far can they spike during the regular usage, and see if we have a room, which will be, to decrease the asked CPU resource for each individual Kubernetes deployment. Our goal is to try to decrease it at least by a few more CPUs. But what I encountered during my testing is that Minikube alone, without running any workload, takes more than one CPU. So it will be like 1.2, 1.5. And then we hopefully can limit our app to maybe use a few more CPUs, but to go from 5 to 4 or 3. And yeah, then I think then we would be in a good place at that point.
Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, I would say if during boot time you just slice, cut it down by one more, and then it's like 4, and it's below 8 gigs of RAM. I think that these days it's like it's completely fine. I cannot imagine someone running a desktop machine locally that doesn't have 4 CPUs just to boot later.
Yeah, the issues here, like for me locally when I'm doing the development, I often have to, like, for example, turn off the Chrome or Arc, which can easily take up like 11 gigabytes of RAM or 10. So yeah, my hope was to kind of be able to run this local version of development version of Semaphore next to the programs that are usually open in my environment. We are not yet there, but yeah, hopefully we will be there soon. So one more thing that we have now is a list of good first issues. So if you go to our board with issues and search by the label good first issue, you will be able to find some. We will add here definitely more, especially when our product owner comes back from his leave. And yeah, these are some issues that will help you get to know and understand our code, usually one service at a time, starting with the UI. And after that, you can actually browse the other issues as well, find something that interests you and pick it up. I'm not sure if you, Darko, have any more questions regarding this dev experience part of our of our release, or maybe we can go to the small quality of life improvements that we've been working on.
No, I think that's pretty much it. These are great news, and many things that were not possible before are now possible. So I guess definitely the best starting point is Semaphore's README, and then documents that you were sharing regarding the development environment and the contributing guidelines and so on. So yeah, all great. Super excited that people will have much easier time now to contribute. Maybe this is also a great time when we are talking about contributing to mention the people that made their first contributions this month. So maybe you can
Sure.
Honorable mentions.
Yeah, we have two new outside contributors. I will try to pronounce their names correctly. First is Michal Matjaš, who solved the bug we had with timestamps that were showing up in the UI. So we have that activity monitor page that lists all of the current workflows running. And if you would to open the development tab, JavaScript listed a bunch of errors regarding timestamp format that is not correct. He fixed that. Our other developer is Fred, who had a couple of contributions. One of them was regarding our visual editor. So here you have two modes. You can see those visual blocks and edit your workflow in that way, or you can browse individual files and then change any of the YAMLs. Before, you were not able to properly switch between different YAML files. Why? There was some JavaScript issue which didn't trigger re-rendering. Fred fixed that, and he also had another contribution where we have few typos and wrong instructions in that getting started guide on the homepage of Semaphore, which he also fixed. Next to these couple of improvements, there was one more, let's say, pain point in using Semaphore app. If you had a project which had a big history of workflows, it wasn't that easy to go through all of those workflows and find the specific one you're looking for. Your only option was to go through the UI and manually move page by page. And even then, the state of your, let's say, searching or the page you are on was not persisted. So if you restarted your page, it would go back to the beginning of the list, and you weren't able to share a specific page with your colleagues, for example. So now we are preserving the state in the URL. You can easily find information about the page you're currently on in the URL or the page token. Another thing is filtering by date. So if you know that some build happened maybe a month ago, at least roughly you can, let's say, go to maybe March, and let's also time box it from here to maybe end of March. It would filter only those things. Yeah, so the one thing you cannot, of course, do is change the, not change, but those dates have to be like, we have this error handling, and it will not allow you to have one date from being before the after date. These filtering options are also saved in the state here in the URL. So once you can also paste that URL with the filtering options to any of your colleagues or save it for later. So yeah, that has been maybe the biggest noticeable change in our functionality for this month.
Yeah, great. Yeah, vast majority of work spent on improving the contributing and developer experience. Great.
Exactly, yes.
Okay. Another in the realm of announcements, what we have is a bounty program that we are launching. It's not fully live yet, but keep an eye on our README. We'll be using a platform called Algora. It's algora.io, and will be included in the show notes below the video. essentially it's a platform where we would pre-select some of the first issues and issues where we think that people can contribute, either something which is in the realm of non-critical bug definitely, or like a smaller feature improvement, and there will be some price attached to that, and then through using that Algora platform we would also have payouts for people that are willing to invest their time and energy and contribute to Semaphore. On top of that, another huge thing that we are launching, and again we'll be sharing notes in the description below, is in the realm of Enterprise Edition. So essentially Semaphore today that you can just install is under Apache 2 license, is the Semaphore Community Edition. You can install it, you can run it for organization of any size without any without requiring any payment. It's fully free and open source. But there is another edition of Semaphore that we are initially introducing today, available to people also to use without attached cost to it, which is an Enterprise Edition. And the Enterprise Edition will be available for people, for companies essentially, who have less than 50 people and are making less than 5 million in annual recurring revenue. So they can use it. They can use it for free. The installation option that you need to include is just in the Helm chart. You want to install the Enterprise Edition, and you would need to acquire a license. Information on the licensing part will be also will be included. So essentially, for all the companies out there that would want to enjoy and use all the Semaphore features, that also include advanced RBAC and all the compliance and other stuff, but are a small company, they can use it for free, and only when they gain some momentum and become a bigger company, they would need to transition to a paid plan. And I think that it wraps it up, Veljko, for this release. Is there anything maybe for 1.4 that we want to mention? I know that in the realm of developer experience, there are still things that we want to improve. I don't know, Veljko, if there is anything maybe concrete in that dev experience realm that you would like to mention.
Yeah, so we want to, as you mentioned, mainly and primarily decrease resources that are required to run everything local even further. And that will most likely take, again, a bigger portion of the next month. But if I share my screen again quickly, we have first draft of other issues that we want to tackle in the next month. Some of them include maybe smaller things, some are like smaller UI changes, but we will also have something like, for example, rebuild pipeline that will probably, again, increase quality of life for many of our users. Currently, we do support this option via API, where you can only rebuild some parts of your workflow and not everything. But odd enough, there is no way to do it through the UI, and we are not really marking those partial rebuilds also properly in the UI. So that's maybe one of the bigger feature enhancements that will be that we will be targeting for the next release. If somebody is willing to take a crack, you can again go to our issues and find v1.4. Take a look at the description, and yeah, if you have time and energy, take a crack at any of these.
Great. Okay, so yeah, thank you, Veljko. I think a very important release for people that want to contribute. On the other hand, this Enterprise Edition being available to a much wider group of people at no cost is also a great improvement. We'll be making like a separate materials and instructions how people can dive into that and include them in the notes below. Veljko, thank you so much. See you in the next one.
Thank you as well. See you. Bye.